When I pulled up to my new ranch in the Colorado foothills, the March wind carried the promise of a fresh start. At 52, after 2 decades of military service, I was ready to trade the chaos of deployments for the quiet of 120 acres of scrubland, a crumbling Victorian farmhouse, and a barn that looked like it might collapse under a strong breeze. I'd named it Ironwood Ranch, a nod to resilience. My old military truck groaned under the weight of tools, generators, and my 2 German shepherds, Buck and Scout. This was my land, my project, my peace. Or so I thought. The trouble started on day 1. As I unloaded my gear, a white SUV idled across the road, just beyond the fence line separating my property from Aspen Grove Estates, a gated subdivision that grazed the northern edge of my land. The driver, a woman with platinum hair and oversized sunglasses, watched me like a hawk. Her phone was raised, not quite filming, but close enough to make a point. I ignored her and kept working. By the time I'd hauled out my toolbox and solar panels, she was gone. I should have known it wasn't over. 15 minutes later, 2 sheriff's cruisers roared up my gravel drive, lights flashing. My gut tightened not from guilt, but from the sinking feeling of a day derailed. 2 deputies stepped out. One, a grizzled veteran named Harris, and the other, a jumpy kid who looked fresh out of the academy. "Sir, step away from the barn. Hands where we can see them," Harris called. I complied, slow and steady. "This is my property," I said. "Deeds in the truck." "We got a call about possible theft," Harris replied. "Someone says you're looting this place." Before I could respond, a shrill voice cut through. "That's him. He's stealing equipment." There she was, the SUV woman, now standing behind the cruisers, filming with a smirk. Her name, I'd later learn, was Deborah Miles, the self-appointed queen of Aspen Grove's HOA. Harris checked my paperwork title, bill of sale, notarized transfer. "Checks out," he said, then shook my hand. "Tom Grayson, right? Heard you were with 3rd Recon." I nodded. "Marines, 98 to 18. He grinned. "Fallujah, 04. Semper Fi." Deborah's face turned beet red. "Those papers are fake," she shrieked. "This land belongs to the Thompsons. He can't just move in." Harris turned to her, voice flat. "Ma'am, this isn't your jurisdiction. You almost got someone hurt with that call." Deborah sputtered. "This isn't over." I looked her in the eye. "Learn the law, lady." She stormed off, and the deputies left me to my work. As the sun dipped below the ridge, I stood on my porch, staring at the house I'd just defended with a folder of documents. This was war. The next morning, I found an envelope zip-tied to my gate. Inside, on Aspen Grove HOA letterhead, was a notice of violation. It accused me of parking an unpermitted vehicle, my truck, storing hazardous materials, my generators, and keeping aggressive animals, my dogs. It demanded compliance within 7 days or further action. Laughable, except for the second page, an invitation to join their HOA board meeting to resolve the issue. A trap. I filed it under nonsense and got back to work. By noon, my contractor, Javier, called. A woman in a Lexus had tailed him, snapping photos of his truck and demanding to know if he had a work permit. She'd followed him for a mile, shouting about unauthorized labor. I didn't need to guess who. I told Javier to keep working and grab my binoculars. Sure enough, Deborah was parked at the road's edge, phone out, glaring at my land. I waved. She didn't. Things escalated fast. Workers reported more harassment. Deborah was trying to flag them down, filming their plates. I called my lawyer, Susan Carter, a Denver real estate shark. "Send me everything," she said. "This is harassment and trespass." I installed security cameras, motion lights, and no trespassing signs. Then I went public, penning a polite piece for the local newsletter, clarifying that Ironwood Ranch was private, not under HOA control, and all work was permitted. I invited neighbors to visit by appointment. Deborah didn't take kindly to that. She screenshotted my article, posted it on the HOA's Facebook page, and unleashed a tirade, calling me a militia wannabe and hinting I was training for something sinister. Comments piled up, some calling me a prepper, others a threat. One guy asked if I was starting a shooting range. I replied, "If I do, you're invited." Susan's cease and desist letter landed soon after, citing trespass, defamation, and harassment. It gave Deborah 72 hours to stop. She didn't. Instead, she upped the ante. My welder, Carlos, called one morning, furious. They blocked the road. A steel gate now barred the gravel access road to my southern fields, locked with a chain and a sign. Private road, Aspen Grove residents only. This wasn't just petty, it violated a 1987 easement, granting me permanent access. I drove out and found Deborah waiting, smug as ever. "This is our road," she snapped. "HOA funds built it." I held up the notarized easement. "This says otherwise." Deputy Harris arrived, read the document, and whistled. "Ma'am, this gives him unrestricted access. You're breaking the law." He supervised as my crew cut down the gate, leaving it neatly by the roadside. Deborah fumed, silent for once, then sped off in a cloud of dust. I thought that might end it, but Deborah was relentless. A new envelope appeared, this time a community defense flyer accusing me of tactical training and owning combat dogs. It included a map of my property with danger zones, marked proof that someone was spying. Then my supply trailer's lock was smashed. Security footage caught a hooded figure skulking at 2 a.m. I sent it to Susan and the sheriff. Next, an anonymous complaint to the county claimed I was building an unpermitted training facility. An inspector, Greg, visited and found everything in order. "Off the record," he said, "this came from Aspen Grove. Third complaint this month." Susan added it to our lawsuit: harassment, trespass, defamation, and interference. But the real kicker was a drone photo and a county citation showing my barn from above. It was professional, high-res, and illegal. I filed a privacy violation with the FAA. The hearing was a circus. Susan laid out our case: the false 911 call, the gate, the flyer, the drone. The judge, Margaret Holt, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, shut down Deborah's lawyer's objections. When Deborah took the stand, claiming she feared for the children, Susan tore her apart. "Did you verify his deed? Contact the sheriff." Deborah stammered. "I acted on instinct." Holt's verdict was swift: a temporary injunction barring HOA interference. To Deborah, she said, "You're not the law." The final blow came when Susan uncovered Deborah's misuse of HOA funds, thousands spent on lawyers, drones, and flyers without board approval. The treasurer, Harold, exposed her, and the county launched a criminal probe. Deborah was arrested for fraud, false reporting, and harassment. I watched from my porch as they cuffed her. She screamed. I sipped my coffee. Her trial was a rout. With Susan's evidence, sheriff reports, and Harold's testimony, Deborah got 10 years, 6 for the false 911 call, 2 for fraud, and 2 for harassment. The HOA paid me $83,000 in damages, and Deborah's house was sold at auction. Ironwood Ranch is now thriving. The barn's solid, the fences are new, and I teach locals fire prep and homesteading. Neighbors visit, bringing beer and stories. Last summer, I hosted a barbecue. Kids played, dogs ran, and we laughed about the HOA witch. I nailed a sign to my gate: private property. Respect required. Trespassers meet the owner. It's quiet now, but I'm always ready. What do you think? Have you faced injustice or overreach like this? Share your thoughts in the comments, especially on how far you'd go to protect your rights. Let's hear your stance.